I think I'm going to move on just for a moment and talk about physical spaces. So again, I'm using you. This is my library. I want ideas. Just tell me how to do this, please. No,
get rid of the yellow.
Yeah. Right. That's always the problem. So this is the library, the Sylvan Way branch. Here, you may remember this from the video where she was going. She entered here. Great actor too, by the way. She's won awards locally, nationally perhaps. Anyway, she entered here, came into this kind of no man's land where there's a bunch of media and there's a bunch of signage, things like that. Checked at the checkout desk. She went back to the reference desk. So checkout desk. Information or reference desk, and then we have our stacks around here: fiction, nonfiction, reference, like a seating area, children's, teens. This is our computer area. A little more computers here, and yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I'm looking for. This is technology.
Children's area.
Yeah.
Children's area is yellow.
What's that?
Children's area is yellow.
Yes.
Today it is. Yeah. Anyway, so the thing that we're like really considering is like no more back and forth. Let's create the single service point, and that's like our big thing. This is kind of why I wanted to bring this in here. But anyway, I want you guys to look at this, and maybe we'll get like this perspective here. I always forget the names of the perspectives. Again, I'm a lay person. Anyway, do you guys see anything about that physical space that I presented or that I showed you, or that's here, that like currently the layout, I'm trying to think how would we look at this in terms of some of these great things about usability that we came up with.
So
any ideas?
Where do you want people to go, I guess would be, where's your idea about where they should be finding this?
Okay. Let me start over. This is the way I actually want to do it. So, Krug talks about, don't make me think, he talks about, don't make me think you should be able to go to a website and tell exactly what it's for. You shouldn't have to guess what it's for. And you should also know right away how to use it, generally. Maybe not the specifics, but you should know those two things. Real quickly, what do you think we use the library for? I mean, what do you think we'd use this library for? It's too big a question.
I think like the triple door. Okay, the triple door is what I was talking about. I was going to say that, wasn't I? I think one of the problems that they had over there was they were basically probably looking at a top-down blueprint when they made it, and they weren't thinking about the space. I really don't think that. I mean, you can kind of imagine. Okay, here's the entrance. What would I want to see first? Maybe. And in that case, I'd probably do. Have you ever seen like Usability? It's a web-based. It's a click testing. It's made for websites generally, but you put an image up there to say where would you expect to click? What area would you look in for this feature? If you wanted to sign out, where would you click?
Yeah, I get that.
And
yeah, so you're
see that's kind of like crowdsourcing feature.
Right, suggestion.
Can you repeat that again? Usability?
Usability.
I like this. See, I like where we're just sharing.
.com. Two L's. I imagine one would work if there's
so.
one.
Yeah, you make a good point, is that the designers of this space are probably looking at a schematic much like this, just kind of this overhead projection kind of thing. They did look at the ups and downs and the sideways and stuff, and what they did was they came up with everything's this octagon thing that ends up in 4, I don't know what you call it, but as you can see, everything goes up toward a skylight. And one of the usability issues for this physically is that when everything goes up toward these skylights, it creates pods. We now call them pods because that's the way they behave. And so if I'm a child over here playing, and I'm 2 and I don't know that I shouldn't scream at the moment, if I scream, and these people are working on computer stuff here, working on the computer, trying to concentrate here, or even worse, they're working on their genealogy research, they're hearing all of that because the sound just like travels right through right through that pod to, in the back here, in fact, my phone can ring, or somebody's phone can ring over here, and I hear it over here thinking it's mine. It's really ridiculous. So that's, there's a good point. Yeah, just.
Okay.
Anyway, that like the way we looked at it when we designed it was probably not user friendly to begin with. Let's look at some of the slides of the library here itself. I promise we're not just going to look at my library. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I know you want. I know you'd like to be paid if you're going to put all this info. Yes.
If you're looking to learn from user experience design, it may also interest you to learn how user experience design fails also. And oftentimes a user experience is clunky or weird is because of org silos. So, an experience is continuous for a user, but sometimes the organization has such silos that it interrupts the experience, and to the user, they don't care what their organization looks like.
Right, organizational silos. So here's our organizational silos. I mean, it's less to this extent because we have some really great staff, but reference is a different service for the most part, although I don't think it should be, I don't think it has to be. It functions as a different service from circulation over here where we're checking out books, doing other things, as I say. But there's a silo right there in reference. There's a silo right there in cert. Are the folks who reshelve books or paging department, they're just working on getting the materials where they need to go. That's another silo apparently that we operate under. So we're really trying to overcome these odds, and I think the physical environment has a lot to do with that. And I'm thinking, what are you thinking as far as from your experience? How do you reduce those silos, perhaps?
Well, so again, from user experience design, usually bad designs come from the fact that there are no good goals. And if you don't have goals and if you don't have stakeholders agreeing on the goals, you're going to end up with a design that's not going to meet any of the goals because you didn't have it to begin with.
Yeah.
So if your goal is that a patron should be able to come in, find the book they're looking for, check it out, and be out in 5 minutes, that's a goal you put up there and then try to meet it. And change the space to meet that goal when you figure out it fails.
So what do you think, looking at, again, this image, this space, what do you think is like good about it for, say, that goal for someone, or what do you think hinders that, you think?
So it's an example of something which is subjective, right? I mean, you can kind of do some heuristic by just looking at the layout and figure out that, okay, when I walk in, maybe it should be more obvious to me. But you kind of had this example video where you had a user going in, and where did they first look when they had a task in mind? That's where maybe they should find what they're looking for. So because the 3D space, you kind of just iterate a couple of times, see where people tend to look first for something, and try to, fit that expectation that people have.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I think like she came in the video. She came in and she walked in this entrance here, and she walked straight to the cert desk. Although the video, she's acting like she wants to find some books to check out, or she knows what she's looking for to some extent, type of thing. But she walked, she was looking at the self-checkout. Is that going to help me? No, that's not your catalog. That's a self-checkout station. She asked at the checkout desk, and they said, well, in order to get that kind of help, you should go to the other desk. And so her initial look is in this physical space is just toward, a little plug here. The Science of Shopping says, you ever heard of this? Paco Underhill, Science of Shopping. He studies the science of shopping. He says people tend to look and move to their right first, and that's what she did. I didn't tell her to do that. She's a great actor. So she walked in and went to her right. And so we need to understand those expectations. If people expect to find the most important things on the right, maybe we should put them on the right. That's kind of what I'm thinking anyway. Yeah, you were going to say?
I think a good way to maybe kind of gauge what people are looking for is that you can just have somebody on staff take half hour of their day, once a day, just to ask people, hey, right when they come in, not when they were leaving, because they might change their answer. But right when they come in and say, hey, I just really want to do a quick survey. Why are you here? Like, what are you looking for at the moment?
Yeah.
If you do that half hour a day for 2 weeks, you pretty much get the whole day represented. And if you get 40% of the people saying, I'm just here to browse, or I don't know why I'm here, then they might be looking for more of a senior browser.
That's so sharp. We consider this idea of a greeter, but this was more like a permanent thing. have somebody greet and just say hello, you know, and if they ask a question, then that's great. But somebody there, just for survey purposes, just to collect data about where are you going, you know, what are you looking for? And then maybe you don't even tell them where, and then they can, you see where they go, but I don't think that's realistic.
It's stalking through the library.
Well, that's what they do in the Paco Underhill book, the Science of Shopping. They essentially stalk people in stores, write down their every movement, how many times they pick up a sweater, that sort of thing. It's really, really interesting stuff. I like that idea. I'm going to think of how to meld that. Okay.
I just said half hour day because I figured you couldn't afford somebody all day, but if you want to pay someone to stand there all day, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys have any opportunities to do any mock-up, like miniature mock-ups of anything? So 3 years ago, Alaska Airlines had to design their whole entire baggage check-in because it was causing such major congestion. And they did a bunch of studies, and they actually studied how Disneyland lays out their theme park and puts people in the right place. And they created like a mock-up of what all the stations would be like in an abandoned warehouse. And they figured out that people need decision zones, and they figured out that there would be like a lobby coordinator. And so perhaps what would help you guys is have an actual mock-up and maybe have a Lego person, like a little Lego miniature that walked through. And the Apple Store, one of the reasons that we cited for its success is they mocked it up so often. They spent like 9 months screwing around with the configuration of the store to the point, and they walked through it and have real scenarios of how someone might buy something or learn something or whatever. And that was how they came to their success. It's just iteration with a real mock-up, with a real prototype.
See, I didn't know there was so much success with that, and I didn't mean to mock you, but that's what I'm trying to, I think that's what I'm trying to look at. I want to screw around and see which layouts actually work in our perspective, or maybe present it to others. But I think you've got evidence that maybe it works. If it worked for Disneyland, why can't it work for?
So there's a Fast Company article that you can look up on how Alaska did it, Alaska Air, and how they redesigned those.
Is that how we check in here and then turn around and give our bags to the guy behind us?
Well, space planning.
Yeah, they had to streamline all of that because people were lining up all the way out to the doors, and they didn't know how to accommodate for the increased volume of customers with the space that they have.
I mean, space planning is not a new field. I mean, people do it all the time. Doing a survey of your users before you decide to change a lot of stuff, I mean, it's something that every company does. You can go and do online surveys or anything like that, or try to, I mean, they have some record of patronage. I mean, I would think that it would be smart to figure out what kind of users are at what branch, because you're going to get different users at different types of branches. And he was talking about going in, and he was talking about efficiency of wanting to go in and be out in 5 minutes. Some people use the library that way, other people are there for hours. So, and then some people, you know, I don't know how much actual materials you have to deal with, you know, whether all of your aisles are compliant with ADA standards, you know, all of that stuff to consider, because if you redesign it now, then, you know, getting it all to standard that way is going to be important.
Let me shift gears here just a moment. I told you I didn't want to just talk about the library.
Only a few were in the center.